This is a questionable reality production. Hello, I'm Zander Crowns, and this is AP Post History. Now let's get started. Today we'll be covering topic 4.6, the rediscovery of the revealed world. In some portion of your foggy memory, you might remember that over the centuries, the black seas of salmon had been slowly draining and revealing increasingly more land. Well, this trend continued throughout these post-historical developments we've discussed recently, except there was a distinct lack of the dramatic reveal as the Chinook Basin. However, with the Dark Age dwindling in duration and new, larger countries forming, a certain wanderlust took hold. The first people to act on this desire was the country of Venia, which commissioned 12 exploratory expeditions in 1534 PQS. Their only prerogative on these missions was exploration and documentation of unknown lands for future exploitation. After a year and a half of exploring, miraculously, all 12 groups returned, of course, in varied states of quality. While most found but little to nothing but various small islands that sprinkled the ocean, obviously because they were looking in the wrong place, 2 had somewhat interesting report. The Casco Lago party found what was likely the European Alpine region, along with some neighboring decently sized islands. They did land and explore most of the continent's coastline, but found a lack of any complex civilization or people in general, save but one ominous sign, fibrous, written on the bark of an oak tree. Fibrous. Though it was certainly a lush and beautiful and exploitable place. They named their discovery Monkey Island, presumably, and as reported, it looked awfully like a rabbit missing its nose and left hind foot. Monkey Island was claimed for Venia and zoned for immediate development. The Frederickson party landed in what post-historians think used to be the Himalayan mountains. Keep in mind the majestic mountain range was dramatically reshaped for a modern art piece sometime in the pre-apocalyptic era, thus it's not quite as you think it is. The island was named Fish Isle, as it lacked any fish, which was just quite odd and perplexing, and, interestingly enough, lacked any live person as well. In fact, let's turn to the History Makers segment, where Frederick of the Frederickson party describes Fish Isle. Captain's report. It was really a stereotypical island, you know? Palm trees, sand, coconut, the whole lot of it. Everything is what you would expect of a small, remote Pacific island. Except there were no savage cannibals as you would anticipate, which I found quite disappointing, along with the complete lack of any other type of person. The ancient literature would seem to paint a picture of grass skirts and fire dancing, but this place is dead. Well, it's dead with a few tropical garnishes here and there. Everybody needs a few flowers, doesn't it? While the Venian authorities worked very hard to prevent leakage, which you should very much commend them for, it was quite difficult. Soon, other nations learned of their discoveries and followed suit. The major exploratory players would be Venia, F/D, Munkenhaus, and much, much more. But don't really worry about the specifics of all these nations, as these would find themselves rather quite short-lived. So a great deal of exploring took place, and a great many islands were discovered. However, not a single living being was spotted on a single existing island. The only mark of anything was simply the word fibrous written onto several trees across individual islands. With this development quite concerning some, while others went about, of course, draining the lands of natural resources without having to worry that centuries later people would establish some guilty history about them. On that first note, though, there was such a concern, as many speculated that it was impossible for no other mountainous region of the planet to allow for the continuation of life. It just seemed so naturally feasible that they ought to find something else. Of course, some nations began to add people to these islands, and naturally wars over control soon broke out as well. In an interesting development, the embracing of the medieval way of life was slowly being abandoned, and modernization began to take place once again. But soon, for all these complicated and convoluted machinations, a wrench orbiting in space is just waiting to fall into the machine of humanity. Though I get ahead of myself. And that's it. Topic 4 of Unit 6 is complete. And that's our last unit of Unit 4. If you want to find success in your post-history class and settle on Monkey Island, consider subscribing and liking this video. My goal is to see each and every one of you get a 92 in your class and a 7 on the exam in Quintober. Alright, Zander Crowns, checking out.